Imagine you're sitting at a local bar on a cold, rainy Tuesday afternoon,
Yeah, just minding your own business,
right? You're eating a fish taco, looking at your phone, maybe, daydreaming a bit.
as we all do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And suddenly, a 75-year-old stranger leans over,
Out of nowhere.
completely out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And within 5 minutes, he tells you that you've paid too much for your lunch, advises you to go home and pick a fight with your partner, casually mentions he used to be an elephant, and then shakes your hand,
Oh, wow.
right? And he thanks you for a disagreement you never actually had.
That is wild.
It is. And if that happened today, to you listening right now, would you put your headphones in or would you actually listen?
Most people would definitely just put the headphones in.
For sure. But today, we are choosing to listen. So welcome to a very special, deeply grounded deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We spend a lot of time on this show exploring complex data sets, dense research, or, sweeping historical trends. But today's mission is a little different.
Yeah, we're taking a slightly different path today.
We really are. We are exploring the profound chaotic wisdom hidden in just an everyday human encounter.
Right. Because today we are looking at a beautiful little snapshot of life from a writer named John Novick Jr. It's an excerpt from his America Actually series, specifically a piece titled Life Lessons from Walter.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my immediate thought when reading this piece was about the contrast.
The contrast.
Yeah, the contrast between how we interact today versus what happens in this specific tavern. Like, we are so used to our lives being curated,
Completely.
You open your phone and a digital algorithm feeds you perfectly predictable, tailored content. It's engineered comfort.
You never have to encounter an idea you didn't explicitly ask for.
Exactly. But sitting down at a bar and having a stranger named Walter spontaneously download his entire life philosophy into your brain.
Yeah, that's something else entirely.
It is the ultimate anti-algorithm. It's unpredictable. And our goal today is twofold. First, to extract Walter's surprisingly poignant life lessons.
Which are great, by the way.
They really are.
Yeah.
And second, we want to look at this encounter as a cultural artifact.
Right, examining how local Chicago tavern conversations are this vital form of community socialization that we risk losing entirely.
Yeah, as our communication crosses, time and space via our digital lives.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to understand the weight of Walter's words, we really have to look at the physical space that allowed this collision of lives to happen.
The setting.
The setting is crucial. It's a cold, rainy November day in Chicago.
Classic Chicago weather.
Totally. The author, John, is at a bar called HopCat. His partner, Dana Marie, is out with friends, so he's just flying solo.
Just him and his thoughts.
Yeah. He's eating a taco, having a few pints at the bar. He's completely available to the world around him.
And sitting near him is Walter.
The man of the hour.
The man of the hour, yeah. The text describes him as a man around 75 to 80 years old. Born in Munich, raised in Uruguay, and he spent the better part of 50 years traveling South America, Africa, and Europe.
A real world traveler.
Absolutely. And Walter doesn't ask for permission to speak in some formal, modern way.
He doesn't send a LinkedIn request.
No. He just leans over and asks, "Can I tell you the thing or two?"
I love that.
Right. And John, mid-bite, just says, "Why not? Sure."
Which initiates what we can easily call a classic Mike Royko moment.
Yes. For those who might not know, Mike Royko was a legendary Chicago newspaper columnist.
Right. He built his entire career on capturing the authentic, gritty, and often really profound voices of the city's working class taverns.
The real people of the city.
Exactly. Royko understood that the bar stool was the great equalizer, and the author of our source text connects this dynamic to an Irish concept of tavern culture.
Yeah, this is a great point in the text.
He writes, "You want to be alone? Get a table. You want craic? Take a seat at the bar."
And real quick, for anyone reading along, that word is spelled craic, but it is explicitly pronounced crack.
Right, crack. It's that beautiful, chaotic energy of spontaneous news, gossip, and genuine conversation.
The crack is the lifeblood of the bar. But I have to push back on the mechanics of this a little bit.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, the author romanticizes the physical space of the tavern.
Yay.
Right. Suggesting the bar itself creates this openness. But is it really the architecture of the room?
I mean, I think it plays a part.
Sure, but I tend to think we've just completely forgotten how to be available to strangers because of our smartphones.
Ah, the screens.
Right. If this exact scenario happened today, John wouldn't be staring into space while eating his taco. He'd be watching a video on his phone with noise-canceling headphones.
That's a fair point.
So it's not the death of the tavern we're looking at. It's the invisible wall we carry with us everywhere we go.
Well, I see where you're coming from with the tech angle, but I'd argue the architecture and the sociology of the barstool are actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So a local tavern, especially on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, functions as a highly specific third place.
A third place, right?
Yeah. Sociologically, a third place is an environment outside of your home and your workplace. When you enter it, your primary identities are temporarily stripped away.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. At home, John is a partner. At work, he's a professional. But sitting on that bar stool, he has no title. He's just a patron.
He's just a guy eating a taco.
Exactly. That loss of title, combined with the physical setup where people are sitting shoulder to shoulder facing a mirror or a bartender.
Rather than making direct eye contact across a table.
Precisely. That setup naturally lowers psychological defenses. It permits a 75-year-old stranger to bypass small talk entirely.
I really like that framing. The shoulder-to-shoulder geometry makes the interaction feel almost collaborative, rather than adversarial.
Yeah, you're both facing the same direction.
And Walter certainly bypasses the small talk.
Oh, he skips it entirely.
There's no, how about this rain? Or, did you catch the game last night?
Not at all.
No, he immediately launches into this hyper-observant critique of modern life. And he starts with something incredibly poetic.
He really does.
He tells John, "You wake up early and look at the sun coming up. It seems small, but it's enough. It's all you need."
It's a brilliant opening thesis for his entire worldview, honestly.
It sets the tone perfectly.
It establishes a baseline of profound simplicity. The sun is enough. Right. And once he establishes that baseline, he turns his critical eye directly onto John's lunch.
Poor John's lunch.
Right. He zeroes in on the fish taco John is eating,
Okay.
and Walter makes a razor-sharp distinction between being frugal and being cheap.
Oh, this is such a good distinction.
He tells John, be frugal, but don't be cheap. You just paid $12 for 2 tacos.
Which to Walter is an absolute absurdity. $12.
A travesty in his eyes.
Truly, he points out that just a mile away, John could get them for $3 each. But Walter's reasoning for why John should go down the street is what really struck me.
Yeah, it's not just about the money.
No, it's about the people. He says, and Mexicans who know what they're doing will make them for you. And they care what you think of them. Why are you eating tacos here?
Notice the mechanism of Walter's critique there.
Yeah, let's look at that.
He isn't just giving financial advice about saving $9. He's diagnosing a societal shift.
Exactly.
He's looking at a $12 bar taco as a symptom of a culture that overprices imitated experiences while totally ignoring authentic, accessible experiences.
Imitated versus authentic, yeah.
Walter is demanding that food have a soul. When he says they care what you think of them, he's talking about the invisible stakes of a transaction.
The human element.
Right. The cook at a local $3 taco stand has a direct personal stake in whether you enjoy that food.
But the kitchen staff at a massive, trendy bar like HopCat.
They're detached from the consumer. It's just a ticket on a screen.
We pay a premium for the aesthetic of a blue-collar experience, like going to a trendy dive bar, while actively avoiding the actual blue-collar experience just right down the street.
It's the gentrification of basic human pleasures.
That is exactly what it is. And Walter codifies this into a strict personal litmus test for bars.
His golden rule.
Yeah, he tells John, bread is bread, meat is meat, beer is beer. It's simple. Don't let people mess them up. They're good enough like they are.
That phrase, bread is bread, is basically the cornerstone of Walter's philosophy.
It really is.
It's a flat-out refusal to participate in manufactured complexity, and he applies it specifically to beer, stating that if a place doesn't have old style, you know exactly what kind of place you're in.
Wait, old style?
Yeah, for context, Old Style is a classic, inexpensive, working-class Chicago beer.
Okay, got it.
Walter literally calls the fancy stuff a trap.
The fancy stuff being a trap is such an interesting concept. Because, when you start adding layers of pretension to bread or meat or beer, you aren't actually improving the item itself.
Not at all.
You're just paying a premium to alienate the common person. You're paying for the ego of consuming it.
The status symbol.
Exactly. If a bar serves old style, it signals that they haven't completely surrendered to the upscale illusion. They still welcome the reality of the working man.
And here's where the structure of Walter's mind becomes truly fascinating.
Oh yeah, buckle up.
He doesn't compartmentalize his philosophy.
Oh, everything is connected for him.
The exact same logic he applies to a taco and a beer, he immediately applies to the cosmos, to religion, and to human intimacy.
Right. The transition is totally seamless. He goes from a diatribe about old-style beer to spirituality in, like, the same breath.
Without missing a beat.
He says, religion. Ugh. I believe in a creator, but I don't believe God is standing around waiting for me to ask for help. You have to decide for yourself.
So blunt.
He takes that stripped-down, bread is bread philosophy and just applies it straight to the divine. No fancy rituals, no passive waiting for intervention.
It's just you and the universe.
Yeah, it's a demand for radical self-reliance.
He strips away the institutional fancy stuff of religion to get to the core mechanism, which is personal agency. But notice what he's also doing here. He is demanding friction.
Friction, yes.
He wants the effort of going down the street for a real taco. He wants the effort of deciding his own moral compass without a deity just handing him the answers.
And he famously applies this demand for friction to romance.
Yes.
This might be my favorite part of the entire exchange. Out of nowhere, he starts dispensing relationship advice.
Unsolicited, of course.
Totally unsolicited. He tells John to go home and tell his wife or girlfriend that it's good to fight.
Good to fight.
Because, as Walter puts it, or you'll never get to make up.
Yeah.
And he actually insists that John tell her, Walter told you it's true.
It's wonderfully audacious to just insert your own mythology into the domestic life of a stranger you met 5 minutes ago.
It really is. The confidence is amazing.
But analytically, if we look at the contrast between Walter's advice and modern relationship culture, it's stark.
Oh, completely different.
Today, dating apps and algorithms are designed explicitly to eliminate friction.
Yeah, we filter potential partners by hundreds of data points, right?
Exactly, to find a mathematically frictionless match. We view arguments as red flags or signs of fundamental incompatibility.
But Walter views an argument as the very mechanism that makes a relationship real.
The friction is the point.
The friction is the point. Just like the $3 tacos are better because they involve the stakes of a cook who cares, a relationship is better when it has the authenticity of a real argument.
You have to earn the peace.
Right. The friction is what makes the reconciliation meaningful. If there's no fight, there's no depth.
And if we expand this outward, Walter applies this exact same principle to how we engage with the world at large.
His travel philosophy.
Yeah, with 50 years of travel under his belt, his role is brutal but profoundly respectful. He says, when you're not home, be like the people where you're at. Or just stay home.
Or just stay home. I love that.
It's so definitive.
And he illustrates this with a highly specific example about a grueling 10-hour bus ride from Costa Rica to Nicaragua.
Oof, 10 hours.
Yeah, and that is not a luxury tourist experience. It's dusty, it's long, it's super uncomfortable. But Walter notes the payoff.
The reward for the friction.
Right. He says, when you get to Nicaragua, they're glad you came.
Compare that to how we travel now. We curate our trips to mimic our comforts at home.
Oh, 100%.
We stay in globalized hotels. We eat at recognizable restaurants. We take the quick flight instead of the local bus.
We want the photograph of the destination without the friction of the journey.
Exactly. But Walter argues that by suffering the local inconveniences by riding that 10-hour bus, you actually earn the local respect.
You're participating in their reality.
Right, rather than just purchasing a sterilized version of it.
It's all about groundedness with him. And looking at his worldview from a purely sociological standpoint, he has a very specific way of viewing global politics.
Yes, his views on global affairs are very interesting.
He separates the citizen from the state machinery entirely.
Yeah.
For example, when discussing Russia, Walter mentions he loves the Russian people. And he views Vladimir Putin not as the embodiment of Russia, but simply as, and I'm quoting here, a crazy guy who happens to be just a Russian.
And we should note, we are completely impartially reporting this.
Oh, absolutely.
We are just conveying Walter's exact perspective from the source text. We aren't endorsing any viewpoints here.
Exactly. Just painting the picture of Walter's worldview from the text.
But that distinction he makes is a vital piece of his cognitive framework.
How so?
He refuses to conflate the bureaucratic government with the everyday humanity of the people living under it. He judges the bread as bread, the beer as beer, and people as people, completely separate from the political architecture layered on top of them.
It's an incredibly empathetic way to view a complex world.
It really is.
It's so pragmatic. He's grounded in the dirt, the beer, the buses, the people, and then,
Oh, here we go.
without any warning, he completely shatters that groundedness.
Totally flips the script.
Right. Amidst all this gritty realism, Walter announces his belief in reincarnation.
As one does.
Naturally. He just casually mentions, I was an elephant, I think. I'm happy about that.
Which is the perfect curveball. Just as you try to categorize him as the pragmatic, grumpy old guy at the end of the bar, he reveals this expansive, cosmic, whimsical sense of his own soul.
An elephant.
And the choice of an elephant is so telling, too. It's an animal known for immense memory, deep social bonds, and a slow, deliberate pacing through the world.
It fits his persona perfectly.
It really does.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, and I want you listening to really think about this in the context of your own life.
Yeah, this is key.
Think about how multidimensional people actually are when you strip away the digital filters. Like, if Walter had a social media profile, the algorithm would force him into a niche.
Oh, definitely. He'd have to pick a lane.
He'd have to be the frugal food critic, or the tough love relationship guru, or the spiritual reincarnation guy.
The internet demands brand consistency.
It does. But at a bar, drinking a pint, you get the unedited, beautiful mess of a human being. The whiplash isn't a bug, it's the feature.
That is the true value of the craic. It's the unspooling of human mind in real time, completely unoptimized for likes, shares, or consistency.
Unoptimized. That's the perfect word for it.
Which brings us to the climax of the piece, really, how Walter chooses to end the conversation.
Oh, this is the best part.
Because the real beauty of this interaction isn't just the wisdom dispensed, it's the profound, almost comedic misunderstanding of the dynamic itself.
So after this incredible barrage of life advice spanning cheap tacos, relationship friction, 10-hour bus rides, and elephant reincarnation.
Quite the list.
Yeah. Walter abruptly decides the session is over. He says, I'll leave you alone now. That's enough for today. You look important.
Just wraps it up right there.
That wraps it up. And then he delivers the closing line that elevates the whole story. Walter says, I'm glad we don't agree on things.
Which is fascinating.
Why?
Because as John Novick Jr. writes, he had barely said a single word the entire time.
He really didn't.
He had just nodded, listened, smiled, and drank his beer. He hadn't voiced agreement or disagreement on a single topic.
He was completely silent. And yet they shake hands, and John leaves. It feels to me like Walter wasn't actually offering advice.
What was he doing then?
I think he was using John as a mirror. He needed John to be the silent opposite so Walter could figure out his own edges.
That's a great way to look at it, and it explains why he ends the conversation the way he does. Walter assumed John disagreed with him, but he wasn't threatened by it.
He didn't get defensive.
Exactly. He didn't try to shout John out of the bar. He said, I'm glad we don't agree on things. He appreciated the tension.
Think about the last time you interacted with someone you fundamentally disagreed with online. What is the immediate instinct?
You block them.
You block them, you mute them, or you go to war in the comments section.
Yeah, fight to the death.
The digital architecture trains us to view disagreement as a threat to our emotional safety. But Walter views disagreement as proof of life. It's a successful social interaction for him.
Exactly. It mirrors his advice about relationships. The disagreement means you are sitting next to a real, distinct human being. The ability to sit next to someone, project a sense of fundamental disagreement onto them, and yet completely peacefully share a physical space is a lost art.
It really is.
They shared the bar, they shook hands, and they parted ways with mutual respect.
It makes the author's final reflection so poignant. John leaves the bar and compares Walter to Clarence.
Clarence, the angel from the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Clarence Oddbody, the slightly bumbling, unconventional guardian angel who drops down to show George Bailey the true meaning of his existence.
John calls Walter his 21st century Clarence. But instead of operating on divine magic in Bedford Falls, this Clarence operates on old-style beer and $3 tacos on a cold, rainy November afternoon in Chicago.
It's a great image.
A working-class angel who tells you to stop overpaying for food, to embrace the friction in your marriage, and to remember that bread is just bread.
It perfectly encapsulates the quiet majesty of the local tavern. The digital world gives us exactly what we ask for, which is often just a reflection of our own existing opinions. But the physical world, the tavern, gives us, Walter.
It gives us what we didn't know we needed to hear.
Let's take a step back and look at the journey we've been on.
Okay, let's recap.
We started in a quiet bar, wading through the philosophy of frugality versus cheapness.
Frugal, not cheap.
We saw how the demand for friction in a fish taco extends into a demand for friction in human relationships and global travel.
The 10-hour bus ride.
Exactly. We touched on the empathy required to separate everyday citizens from their governments and the cosmic joy of having once been an elephant.
Never forget the elephant.
And it all culminated in a peaceful handshake over a completely imagined disagreement.
It's a powerful reminder of the sociological importance of the third place.
Truly.
These aren't just places to consume alcohol or food. They are the civic gymnasiums where we practice the art of coexisting with strangers.
Civic gymnasium.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And when we lose the tavern, or when we insulate ourselves within the tavern using our smartphones, we lose the capacity to be surprised by our neighbors.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
The story of Walter is ultimately a warning about the cultural loss that comes with trading physical spaces for digital ones. As we retreat into our curated bubbles, we insulate ourselves from the Walters of the world. We choose the comfort of the algorithm over the beautiful, unpredictable chaos of the craic.
We lose the opportunity to practice sitting next to someone who thinks differently than we do, and realizing that the world doesn't end.
Right. You don't have to agree.
You can just shake hands, appreciate the friction, and walk out into the rain.
Which leaves us with a lingering question to mull over.
And this is something for you to explore on your own.
If the local tavern used to act as society's ultimate offline algorithm, an environment that systematically forced us to sit shoulder to shoulder with people who challenged our views on everything, from politics to the nature of the soul.
Right, the anti-algorithm.
Yeah, what happens to our collective empathy when we permanently trade the bar stool for the screen?
That's the real question.
What happens to a society when the only voices we ever allow ourselves to hear are the ones that already agree with us?
It's something to think about the next time you find yourself with a free hour on a rainy afternoon. Keep your headphones in your pocket.
Take a seat at the bar.
And if someone asks to tell you a thing or two, wait, let me rephrase that. If someone asks to tell you a thing or two, just let them.